Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today we're going to do part two of Isaac Did a Rewrite. For those of
Mm-hmm.
you who have forgotten since last week, or shame on you people who didn't listen to last week, which I'm sure is
Mm-mm-mm.
probably most of you, which is totally fine, no shame. Isaac took a side project that he had been working on. He used Claude to completely rewrite it, soup to nuts,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely everything. And and last time we teased all that out and what the project did. It's a local event schedule or finder.
Mm-hmm.
And today we left off with was, okay, now how does this invalidate or change the thesis of our show of never rewrite? So
Mm-hmm.
I will start by giving the total cop-out answer, which we've covered before, which is we have always said that if you're doing a side project and you want to do a rewrite, you can go nuts because it doesn't matter. So since this was a side project of Isaac's, and he did a total rewrite, we have already said that that's good, but obviously that's the
True.
total.
It is a
This is
cop out.
true. This is true that this is a thing we have said in the past, that if it's a side project, you can do what you want. Also, this is a total cop-out answer. It's not.
Yes, but another thing to think of too is I had no paying customers or customers at all, which is part of that answer. Because
Yes.
if you have customers that are reliant upon the functionality of your software,
Mm-hmm.
then the cut over in the I had downtime. Like I just
Mm.
I was able to do a cut over. I didn't care because no one was looking at it. I did some fast revisions and just push code, and that's not kind of this. I mean, it is still cop out y, but it's not the same thing as having 10,000 people on your site every day using your software, depending on it.
Mm-hmm.
This was very much a just, oh, let me just push the code. I actually let Claude push the code for me without even reviewing it a couple times, which is something you wouldn't do in a professional scenario yet.
Well, you wouldn't
Um,
do it, but lots of people do.
Other people have been doing that, yeah.
Right. So
And
that
there
that's
was
a, that's a
downtime.
good call out of,
Yeah.
yes, this is a full rewrite. Yes, it was a big bang cutover, and there was downtime. But because it's a side project, you didn't care.
Yep. No
So
eyes on it but mine, right?
the downside of it, there was um, downtime, there was an outage, there was some period of time where no one can get the stuff. Meh,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's paying you. One aspect of it to me was you did fall into one of the forcing functions where the original version that you put together, you made an MVP and you glued a bunch of existing services together to get something that worked.
Mm-hmm.
And you came to basically the end of the road with that technology. And one of the forcing functions that we've discussed in the past is, hey, if you have written something with technology that you can no longer go with, that is a valid reason to do a rewrite.
I wouldn't say necessarily that I couldn't go with it. I think the forcing function was just more frustration with it. Like if I had to,
Mm,
it was a side project, right?
right.
And I'm not willing to spend a ton of time like banging my head against the wall for a side project because I
Mm-hmm.
still want to just enjoy my night, right? And so it was one of those things where I think if it was my main job, I would have found a way around it because I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
paid to do that and I have to do that.
Mm,
And for a side gig, it's like, okay, this is becoming more of a headache than it's worth. I wonder if this other tool will just be easier for me.
right.
And so the forcing function was more of just like finding an easier route, and if it can do that's also somewhat free. Like I'd already paid for this. I'd already paid for the most expensive Claude plan, which is like the $200 a month one, and I was already using it for other stuff anyway. So it was already paid for, and now I have extra things. Like I've already paid
Mm-hmm.
for the software to do what I needed to do for a separate thing. And so at that point, it was effectively free. Like the remaining use for that
Mm,
month was effectively free. And it took care of all the different plugins and services and things that I needed to do that were not free in the other way. So I could say money was a forcing function and time was a forcing function because the other way was slowing me down, if we want to
was
go that route.
learning a forcing function, because in this case it seems like failure was an option. You weren't
Mm-hmm.
actually betting the company on this rewrite. It was,
Right.
it's a side project. It was working in a way that was not optimal, but it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And you were betting your frustration, I guess, and a little bit of money. But if you
Right.
had done it and it had failed, you would not have felt like, oh my God, you now need to put this event site out of business.
Right.
So there was no pressure.
no pressure, no, and also like I forgot what your one of your original questions there was, but it just reminded me of this process I had to go through, which is essentially like the learning all of the disparate plugins
Mm-hmm.
and how each of them works and how to like essentially like if there's 20 different plugins made by 20
Mm-hmm.
different companies with 20 different documentations, I have to read 20 different websites to figure out
Yeah.
how it all works. Whereas working with Claude to build it all in house, when I need to know how it works, I just ask Claude, how does it work? Because you just wrote it. It remembers it. I can have it log out to like the MD files of the decisions we made. I can have it read commit history
Mm.
on things that we fixed. So the source of truth is in one area. I guess technically you could have Claude go through and read all 20 websites for you too. But if you're going to do that anyway, may as well just build it in house because it has the full knowledge of everything. It has all the context.
An interesting point. Like with a Copilot type AI, it would do glue very well, and so it
Mm-hmm.
would be more valuable to have it glue things together. But with a more of an agentic system like Claude, you're saying it might make more sense to not have the trade offs of gluing things together, but just to have it build its own.
Right. And this got me into an interesting thing that I ran into recently, actually, a couple nights ago, where I was thinking about A/B testing frameworks, and I usually would want to pay for one rather than roll my own. But I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, has that changed? So I said, Claude, can you write me a generic A/B test? I want to A/B test a couple of these components to gauge, like your success metric is just like, is this has this component been clicked more? Do people engage with this particular upcoming events component more?
Mm.
And so change the wording, change the styles, the buttons, the layouts, whatever you need to do. Can you make your own A/B testing framework? And it did, and I tested it out, and it does work. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, I was going to do a free trial and potentially pay for an A/B thing just to play around with, but I don't need to do that now because there's enough things out there that it's trained on to make A/B testing in house that does the job good enough that I don't really need to pay for this other service.
Right, and I think good enough is doing a lot of work there,
Exactly. Good enough is doing
where
it. Yeah.
it's not doing a great job, probably, but it is the cost of rolling your own has just fallen to effectively zero. So
Yes.
having a very minor version of an A/B testing framework that costs you nothing is
Yeah.
now much better or much more
With the same
affordable.
reason,
Right.
because every A/B testing site out there has its own ways of doing things. You need to
Mm-hmm.
learn. And they usually have their own education like page where like here's how you do this, here's how you gauge this and
Mm-hmm.
pick this that, and I have to go read that and learn that, or tell Claude to go do that for me, right? And now it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, well, if I can just do, I don't even need all the bells and whistles, and I'm sure all those other companies that are doing A/B testing now need to also use AI in some way to make themselves competitive because you can actually tell Claude, go look at the documentation or the API documentation of a service and reverse engineer what that thing's doing because I want to start a company that competes with that thing. you know, and if people can spin up their own Sentry, their own mix panel,
Mm.
their own Google Analytics that quickly, that does good enough, then they're going to stop paying for that unless those other companies can do a lot of things that are cheap enough that you go, do I really want to spend my weekends building all the things that I needed Google Analytics for or that I need a mix panel for? Or is it cheap enough and reliable enough that the freemium plan for whatever I'm using, I may as well just go with them? They're going to have to need to change that. Otherwise, I'm going to stop paying for them.
Right. It seems like AI is going to start biting into the free part of the market segment or the lowest tier,
Yeah,
which for SaaS companies, the lowest tier is usually not profitable. It's a loss leader to get you
right.
like to
To get
liking
you hooked
the
on it.
idea,
Yeah.
to get hooked on it so you go and move on. And so I think, right, like your A/B testing, doing it yourself, you're also the only employee. You're also, because it's a side project, you're
Mm-hmm.
also the only this, you're only that. Whereas if you were paying for a full A/B testing framework, you would have the ability to have non-programmers set up the stuff without Claude, and they
Yeah.
there'd be reports and there'd be all these things that non-technical people can use. You could not use Claude to replace the whole value chain, but you can replace the freemium tier value chain, perhaps.
I think Claude replacing the full value chain will be very soon. I was tinkering around last night with. I got crazy with it.
Okay, tell
So
us.
I said, let's pretend that every component on my website and
Mm-hmm.
every page on my website needs an
Mm-hmm.
experiment.
Mm.
I want you to write an A/B test as if you're a series of people who who owns each thing. Like imagine like one like at a bigger company, every single component, every single page would probably be owned by a team. This is the team that's
Mm-hmm.
all responsible for the upcoming events. These are the team responsible for the weekend events. This is the team that's responsible for the filtering and the search functionality. Like I said, put that hat on and take ownership of everything. And what I want you to do is write your A/B tests, then intermittently check the traffic or self-publish those. Intermittently check the traffic on those and see if one's winning after there's statistical relevance. Like you have enough data to show that one of them's winning, and
Mm-hmm.
then make another PR that I'm going to check after you have results and prove to me why you think one of them won versus the other. And then if I like it, I'll just approve and merge. And then just keep doing this in a loop. And as we speak, I have like 40 different agents, scheduled agents, just kind of waiting, and they're checking every day to see how things have come along and generating reports for me. And they're writing their own tests and their own experiments for it. I just have it, just generate new code and see if the language change. One of the experiments they came up with was, um, uh, what was it? Selling out, like tickets that are low ticket alert, which we do have some of the
For
APIs
some,
like
yeah.
Eventbrite provide me. Low ticket alert versus selling fast, like using that language to see if one of those is more clicky. And the same thing with A/B tests for the emails,
Mm-hmm.
which subject lines perform better. And so right now I have a rudimentary version of this going just as somebody like playing around with Claude to see what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can have that chain going where it's like running tests for me and
Mm-hmm.
getting results, that effectively replaces that whole chain that I might use an A/B testing framework for. And I never had to pay for anything. Now, skeptics will say, does it do a good enough job? Is it just fake data? We'll see. I'm playing around with it still. But I am excited and terrified by how well of a job it's doing so far, self-learning and coming up with its own experiments. And I'm trying to set up a lot of self-healing processes too that keep scraping for more events
Mm-hmm.
and deduping themselves. If it finds issues, it can, like, I can actually read through the logs and it's like, oh, I ran into this problem. I should fix that and try it again. Or, oh, I see an N+1 query problem. Let me fix that and try again. And I come back the next day after having slept and it's fixed itself. And the pipeline's going and it's finding more events and scraping more events and
Hmm.
publishing more events. So I've got quite a few change going. Like, and every night I keep coming up with different ideas. Oh, well, it would be great if I didn't have to keep checking in. You could just do it for me. So it's effectively just like self-learning loops. At some point, this will probably bite me and it'll delete everything in the database. But so far, it's doing a good job.
Do you have
Scarily.
the nightly database backups?
I do, yeah.
Right. Well, that greatly limits the blast radius.
Yeah. So, but and again, this is just me tinkering around, coming up with ideas. And I think that's going to have to be an engineering evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Because if at this point, like there's an integration we're working with at my current primary job where a product just writes a Jira ticket and then Claude will pick up that new Jira ticket and try to work on it for you and come up with a PR that an engineer reviews. So it cuts the engineer out of the loop entirely. If you know how to word it correctly, if we can train product to speak less about how to implement it and what the problem is, that way Claude can figure out the best way to implement it using your code base as like the standard and best practices. That changes engineering's role to like a glorified PR reviewer slash Claude AI integrator. And if that's the case, then engineering is going to need to understand how to provide
Well,
more
you also have to set the
context.
stage. Yeah.
Yeah, the context, the stage is the
This,
context essentially.
yeah.
Engineering's role is going to be like helping guide Claude to understand or AI to understand when not to do something, even if I ask you to do it, because it wants to please right now. Right now, we have to tell it. As an engineer, I reject tickets and say I don't think this
Mm-hmm.
has enough information. It doesn't do that. It just starts working now. So we that if we can provide that more context to it, then everyone's role effectively ends up becoming more of a principal engineer role. And
Right.
the senior and juniors are getting replaced with Claude. And now we just need people who can join a company with an engineering mindset and background, but also wear a product hat to understand how to guide those conversations where product doesn't know some of the nitty gritty behind it. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
changes our bottleneck too, because before we had a ton of things, we had a huge amount of things in our pipeline to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're iterating faster to the point, and I'm not going to say in our current job we're running out of ideas, but you can see how engineering is moving 20 times faster if things are set up correctly. Um, and now product is becoming the new bottleneck of what new features do we do to remain competitive versus these other companies that are going 20 times faster because they're just churning out features so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have to do more A/B testing. Now we have to do more feature generation. What are other ways we can solve problems? And so that's just kind of making me wonder, if product is
Talk
the
to
new
your
bottleneck, what do
customers.
we
Look at
do?
the results. Right. Like,
Yeah, it's a
uh,
ton more conversations with how we can fix customer problems because we're working a lot faster, and like the new bottleneck is how much ideas can we come up with for fixing problems. I think that's the trend, at least.
have you? Well, we're getting off topic. So in this rewrite,
Sure.
right? So do you think that part of the reason you're able to build an A/B testing framework is you kind of know what an A/B testing framework is and how they work,
Yeah.
and maybe somebody who's never worked, who's like, okay, yes, I'm aware that there's this thing called A/B testing,
Yeah.
right? But has never actually done it. Like myself, I've never done any A/B testing where I was using a framework and it was experiments. Like I've done A/B testing where it's like, okay, I'm going to run these two pieces of code. I'm
Hmm.
going to see which one performs better over time, or which one has a
Yeah.
higher success. But I've done that. But where the idea is like, oh, I'm going to set up an experiment and have humans, the users, are going to tell me, and I don't actually, my opinion doesn't matter. I've never set up one of those things because I never do front end.
Hmm.
And would somebody like myself then be able to set up an A/B testing tell Claude set up an A/B testing framework and know whether or not it was doing it correctly?
I think so.
Hmm.
I think it provides. I mean, if it didn't know what A/B testing was, like that's the thing. A/B testing is a universal concept at this point when it comes to the engineering world or the producty world. And so Claude's got plenty of stuff to go off of. So
Hmm.
whenever you ask it, how can I know this data is relevant? How can I know this is working correctly? It can come up with a pretty good answer in response to you. And you can even say, hey, I'm not even part of this world. I've been wearing the back end engineering hat. Can you explain to me? And it will also do a pretty good job explaining to you and helping you come up to speed with what you're looking for and whatnot. What it can't do is the new things we dream up. The first person back in the day dreamt up what an A/B test looked like,
Hmm.
you know. And so if we come up with a new method of doing things that hasn't been thought of before, then that's the limitation of AI, right? Like human creativity. It's trained off of the things that we've done before.
Right. AI is pretty good at doing things that are solved problems,
Yeah, right.
especially solved problems that humans like to reinvent their wheel badly all the time.
Right. So, if enough examples exist out of there of solved problems, like a
Hmm.
login system, like A/B testing, open source plugin, then implementing and integrating all those it can do for you. So we should stop solving solved problems because we
Hmm.
do tend to do that a lot as people. Everyone, like a lot of engineers, I've always wanted to write my own so and so, which is
Well,
fun, but we shouldn't pay you for that anymore. That's a side project.
there's a blog post, and I've forgotten the name of it, but one of the things it was talking about is back in the 1980s, a spell checker was a massive piece of technology. And today, if you wrote a spell checker, everyone would look at you like, why did you write a spell checker? Like, is there some interesting idea that you had for spell checking differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it would just be weird if anybody rolled their own spell checker or
Well,
WYSIWYG.
unless unless one person owned the spell checking software and was charging you a lot for it, and you went, screw it, I'm going to write my own, right? So I think that kind of goes back to this other thing I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
where I think a lot of these services that are charging X amount are going to have to go either a free tier or make it so cheap that I'd rather spend $1 a month. Sure, go ahead, let me use and pay for this thing. Because doing that is easier than me going, let me just vibe code this out over the weekend and replace it.
Well, in that case, the thing in the SaaS model that you'd be paying for, it would be reliability, right? If you
Right.
vibe code your own spell checker, who knows? If
Yeah.
you are paying somebody for a spell checker, they are able to offer you some kind of guarantee and money back. It's like, our spell checker is going to catch. I mean, spell checkers pretty solve problems. Grammarly, like
Yeah.
we're gonna spell check and we're gonna check your grammar to make sure that you aren't dangling any participles or ending sentences on prepositions, or I don't know what other things Grammarly does. And you could roll your own
Tone. Yeah.
tone, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could roll your own, and it would maybe be 95% as good, but there's no guarantee, right? It may or may not.
That's the two-pronged thing, because there's rolling your own,
yeah,
and there's also only other, like rolling your own, that's going to cut into people wanting to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
There's also competitors where, again, like if I can start my own Grammarly that easily and get the ball rolling, then people who actually take it seriously, instead of vibe coding it just for their side project real quick, they're actually, I actually want to start my own company that does a similar thing. Then those ones that spin up that are going to be more reliable because they care about reliability, they're just using that to start their own, like they're just trying to bootstrap very quickly their own competitor. That will also cut into that because this is a new competitor bringing the price down too. Because right now, I am fully confident that if I wanted to, I could create my own mix panel and have my own mix panel company and start charging people and then try to come up with a competitive offer. Like charge them X amount. I don't want to do that.
Right, it seems like a lot
boring.
of work for
a lot of work.
Not
but I'm
very
sure somebody company. Is. I'm sure some other person who has access to this is like, all right, well, shit, I'm going to come up with my own competitor because I hate this thing. Or there'll be something out there that's
you
close
hate
to
it for
monopoly.
some reason.
You hate for some reason, or it pays you, like it charges an exorbitant amount. You're like, well, screw it. I'm going to make my own competitor. You're going to see, I think, a ton of those start popping up all over. And some of them will be good. And you'll either vibe code your own, or which will bring down the price. And everyone's like, okay, I should offer mine for less. Or other competitors will do a good enough job that actually will be competing and be reliable. So I think a lot of these technology services are going to have to start providing something really juicy. Otherwise, they're going to get vibe coded out of existence, or at least the basic functionalities will be.
Right. I'm wondering if this is everything's cyclical in our industry where, it's centralized to decentralized to centralized to decentralized. And I wonder if this is going to be the going back away from the everything apps that do 1.5 million things and back to, if you remember the early days of, say, the phone app stores, where you had apps that did one thing. Like, if this is a photo editing app, it does one type of photo editing. Whereas now it does, everybody's got everything. It's Swiss Army knife. Because you need to keep adding features to make it a valuable offer.
Exactly.
And I wonder if we're going backwards to this piece of software is $3. I haven't touched it in 10 years, but it's still worth $3 because it does the one thing, it does it really well. And if you don't want that, then, vibe code something for free. But the tier of renting software maybe doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, I think we're going into an age where if software is so easy to write, then everything ends up becoming very cheap to pay for service-wise. Because there's no other reason why you would like it needs to be. It's like that sweet spot marketers always find, right? Where it's like, I'm going to pay for, like right now I use Vercel to deploy. I use their free tier. And at some point, I'm probably going to exhaust their free tier usage. Now, they're going to charge me. And they're either going to charge me just little enough that I go, okay, screw it. and pay for that amount, or it's going to be too expensive. I'm going to go, well, I've vibe coded everything else. I'll just host it myself because I'm tech savvy and I can do that. They're going to find the sweet spot where it's just enough money, $4 a month for the next upgrade. I'm going to go, I'll take $4 because that's just little enough for me to do it without wanting to do it myself because I'm lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to happen everywhere. Honestly.
Well, that was most of AWS. I don't know. I haven't looked at AWS pricing in forever, but 10, 12 years ago, everything AWS was pricing was just enough more.
Mm-hmm.
It was just cheap enough that you would never, because this was an argument I remember having. They were like, oh, we could run our own databases. I'm like, yeah, but by the time you set up replication and failover and all of these
patches,
things,
security patches.
Amazon's only charging you a little bit of margin on top of that, and it doesn't. There's not enough room there to hire.
It doesn't forget,
do
and it does a better job. And it's
right.
a reliability piece, yeah.
Right. So reliability is the thing, oddly, in AI.
Yeah. Well, to bring it back to the rewrite thing,
yeah,
and this is why I think rewrites aren't dead, because they're like, okay, you rewrite. Like let's pretend our cop-out argument wasn't a real argument. Let's say this was considered a rewrite. Why wouldn't you just rewrite? And I think my answer for that is it's the same. It's the same reason as today. A rewrite takes time. It takes a long time. And sometimes fails. Oftentimes fails. Features are really being pushed. Everyone wants to be features. Features take some time, but they're often a lot faster than rewrites are, especially if rewrites are 6 months to a year plus and fail. So the only thing that's happened here is that window has gotten shorter. Now, let's say I can do a full rewrite, and let's say it succeeds. And before it took 6 months. I'm just picking random numbers. Now I could do a full rewrite maybe in 3 weeks.
Okay.
Safely. Let's say I have, even faster if you don't have that many customers or whatever. But I could also write a feature instead of a feature every sprint or 2 sprints. I can probably write a feature in 2 days. So why would I use my engineering resources to rewrite everything if everything's kind of working just good enough and I can churn through all kinds of really great features people want to buy? It's the same thing. It's just a shorter timeline.
Right, because now one of the major reasons people want to do rewrites is they hate looking at the code and they hate working in it because it's full of side effects and blah, 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 blah. And AI can handle all of that. You don't have to deal with the crappy code anymore.
Now it's just a time thing, and while we're working on this, I can't get new features out. Yeah. So rewrites, to me, still aren't dead. I think they will be more likely to be successful, potentially, because they can catch those edge cases. But I still think the argument for should we rewrite everything, especially when we're talking about we have 10,000 customers, blah, 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 all these things on top of it that make it still risky because you still are rewriting everything.
Yeah.
If everything works well enough and you can DC ship very, very, very fast with Claude, then you can fix all the problems that are normally the reasons you wanted to rewrite anyway, and just have them iteratively deliver and just keep working on features.
Well, I think that was going to be my argument for even if AI could do a rewrite, I wouldn't do a rewrite because AI could also thesis ship, which would then be faster and safer.
Yeah.
And, to be like, well, you could put this thing on a boat and sail off into the unknown, or you could put it on a plane. Like, why would you put it on a boat?
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't think rewrites are. I don't think the concept of never rewrite is dead. I think it's the same as before. I think it's still the rewrite trap, as our book will be potentially called. It's still a trap you can fall into.
It is still a trap, yes.
And now the cost of that trap is probably just going down dramatically because of AI. Because maybe you've had a failed rewrite in 2 months instead of a failed rewrite in a year, and you only burned 2 months of time instead of a year. But I think that will be scarier. I think it's the same scale problem. Because it's still, 2 months? That's a huge opportunity cost for developments, because now that's a dramatic waste compared to what it was before.
Well, I think another aspect of it, which doesn't get talked about as much, is a rewrite is hey, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to solve this problem. So I'm going to start over. And I'm going to solve it right. And if you do that, whether it takes you a year or 2 months and it doesn't work, which it's still likely to not work, now what are you going to do? You already
Mm-hmm.
did the one thing left, which was start over.
Yeah.
And you didn't know, like, if you have a system and you don't know how it works, and you don't know how to deal with it, and tell use AI to do a rewrite and that doesn't work, now you're really stuck because now you don't even have a bad plan left.
Yep.
What are you going to do now?
So yeah.
Awesome. So still never rewrite.
Still don't rewrite, and we'll see how it shakes out. We'll see if any of the predictions from today's episode hold true. My predictions are that it's the same problem. The timelines have changed. It's the same money problem. You just
The same
imagine
opportunity cost.
it's just squeezed into a shorter time frame. And my other prediction is that products will become the new bottleneck as engineers get faster and faster.
That's an interesting prediction. You're
and,
probably right.
And that engineers will have to become producty to help with that bottleneck and to justify their existence as Claude gets better and better.
Well, I think engineers are also going to, but they're going to have to understand the product better, and they're going to have to understand the computer science better. Whereas today we have people who know how to put stuff together, which is not the best. Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.